Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and I rise to oppose the motion moved by the Leader of the Opposition. And in so doing, I say to the Leader of the Opposition, I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. I will not. And the government will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. Not now, not ever. The Leader of
I can finish now. Oh, yes. Why don't you meow when a woman does that? That's a good idea. That's really good idea. It is just extraordinary. The blokes are allowed to yell, but if a woman stands her ground, you want to make that kind of comment. It's sort of schoolyard politics, right? We just want to ask
I want to make it very clear that I am thankful for Senator Denatali standing up and calling them out. That is what real men do. Real men don't insult and threaten women. They don't slut-shame them, and they don't attack them and make them feel bullied in their workplace. I have sat in this chamber for weeks and weeks, months, and heard the disgusting slurs and attacks coming from a particular group in this place. And I, for one, am sick of it. And I know many of my female colleagues on all sides of politics are sick of it.
Create a culture change. There's the blinkered rejection of quotas and support of the merit myth, but this is more than a numbers game. Across both major parties, the level of regard and respect for women in politics is years behind the business world. Often, when good women call out or are subjected to bad behaviour, the reprisals, backlash and commentary portrays them as the bad ones. The liar, the troublemaker, the emotionally unstable or weak, or someone who should be silenced. To those who say politics is not for the faint-hearted and that women have to toughen up, I say this. The hallmark characteristics of the Australian woman, and I've met thousands of them, be they in my local community, in politics, business, the media or sport, are resilience and a strong, authentic, independent spirit. The voice of the Australian people has been loud and clear. Hundreds from my local community, as well as hundreds more from across Australia.
For decades, she worked her way up to become a telegraphist at the Chief Telegraph Office. And as her career progressed, so did her indignation at the unfair pay and conditions of her female colleagues. Louisa Dunkley was a worker. She was a feminist. And in 1895, she became a trade unionist. The Victorian Telegraph Union of the mid-1890s wouldn't admit women as its members, and it certainly wouldn't advocate for their workplace rights. So Louisa and her female colleagues took the cause into their own hands, and the Victorian Women's Post and Telegraph Association was born. On behalf of that association, Louisa went before the Victorian Colonial Public Service Classification Board and advocated for women to be paid the same as their male colleagues. Her advocacy was described at the time as brilliant, and she won pay increases for the women of that office. Meanwhile, the men, whose union had refused to make submissions for fear of putting the colonial government offside, received pay cuts. Of course, Miss Brittany Higgins.
I was raped inside Parliament House by a colleague, and for so long it felt like the people around me only cared because of where it happened and what it might mean to them.
A few weeks ago, Brittany Higgins was an unknown.
So now we have definitely established that there is a bit of a problem in the way women in politics are treated.
Much like it was stepping back in time. I mean, I had worked my entire life in pretty much blokey cultures, male-dominated cultures in both the legal and corporate sector. I'd seen a transformational change over the years in the corporate world. But then when I entered politics, it really felt like I was going back to the 1980s. It was very sort of Mad Men, as I describe in the book, Mad Men versus Mad Men meets House of Cards.
What doesn't show is, we were up most of the night. The sense of political crisis was very strong within the federal government at that stage, and against that backdrop of political crisis, I did go and speak to Kevin and ultimately asked to bring a ballot on. So then I was up most of the night ringing and talking to parliamentarians, to Labor caucus members. I think I had 2 hours sleep. None of it had been pre-prepared or planned, so it wasn't like I knew that this was the day and I had a special outfit or anything like that. I was just at the end of the parliamentary week getting out the suit that was the least creased, going into Parliament House. But we did organise a make-up person to come and try and do what she could to make me look better. She ended up slipping and hitting me.
I think part of the reason that sexism is such a big problem for Australian politicians is actually because there's a huge drink problem. The politicians are well and truly allowed to drink at work, which I think is ridiculous. As a politician, you have what is one of the most important jobs in the country, and so you should not be drinking at work. That should be absolutely unheard of. But it's not unheard of, it is actually very common. And so what we get is these politicians who are drunk in the chambers. They are drunk as they do what they're doing. And as a result, a lot of men who get drunk in, and a lot of high-ranking male politicians get drunk, and as they are drunk, they are behaving inappropriately. Good example of this, Julia did not mention it, but Julia Bank got assaulted. She didn't say who the man was, but it was a member of the party, came up to her, and he says, "Hello Julia, how are you?" And she says she could smell the alcohol in his breath, and he slowly put his hand on her knee and dragged it up her thigh. That should be absolutely unheard of, but you do, in many situations, have people behave inappropriately to you as an MP. And I think, other examples, Tony Abbott standing next to a sign about Julia Gillard saying, "Dish the witch." And I can think of many, many more examples. It's disgusting and disgraceful in many ways how some of them are.
What actually happened?
Well, it's utter garbage. You've had both me and Jason on the record saying that it just didn't happen. I didn't quit, or I didn't say that I wasn't going to recontest because of these allegations. I said that I wasn't going to recontest because of the extraordinary media attention and, quite frankly, the slut shaming that went along with that. That's actually what brought my career in politics to an end, was being slut shamed. So
The names of men, insinuating that they're people that I'd slept with or had a relationship with. In this last time, when he said these names, I flinched.
it is a long road.
Senator Hanson Young.
I had this really irritating voice next to me, and then I realised it's Senator Bernardi.
I know it. I'm just hearing it from here.
I understand. Perhaps we need to get her breathalyzers at the doors.
I was called out of order and asked to sit down.
No, Senator Hanson Young, resume your seat. There is no requirement for that.
So what role does alcohol serve in the building? You've got youngsters.
Stage of the day, perhaps what you're seeing in the beaming is just a sense of relief that, yes, the day is almost coming to an end and, we've done what we needed to do.
So no moment to really thrive on that excitement?
The moment that really stays with me is being sworn in by the Governor-General, by Quentin Bryce, to date the only woman to serve in that role. And she is a long-time feminist and advocate for women's empowerment. And it was almost the excitement in her eyes that she was getting the opportunity to swear in the first woman Prime Minister. You know, that was what sort of got me out of the I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, to a sense of, yep, just drink it in, reflect. This is a big moment. It's a big moment for the nation as well as a moment for me personally.
Oddly enough, one of the most passionate opponents to women being granted the right to vote and stand for Parliament was a man who was notorious for showing up into Parliament drunk. And that was because I think that what happened was he worried that women would bring him out the burning of alcohol. Not a bad idea. Not all a bad idea. I think now it's used for childcare solutions, which actually takes on a whole other issue and a whole other world of things in women politics is childcare solutions. Take Sarah Hanson-Young, who had a child, Ros Kelly. Ros Kelly had a child when she was in politics, and she had a child, and she was the first woman in the House of Reps to have a baby. And you know, she was quite, I think it's when what you have is younger women like Ros Kelly, like a more modern version of her. She was like a 70s version of both Emma Husar and Sarah Hanson-Young. Young and mothers, a little bit different from the mould, you know, of not just a politician, even of a female politician. When I say that, if I say draw up a female politician, you would probably draw up an older woman who probably looks a little bit like Julie Bishop or Michaela Cash, maybe, possibly Julia Gillard, and probably Bronwyn Bishop as well. You would not draw up someone who looks like Sarah Hanson-Young or Ros Kelly at the time, maybe now but not at the time, or Emma Husar. You would not draw up any of them because they do not fit the mould, and I think that was a big struggle for them. Hillary Clinton is the kind of woman you would draw up, not Emma Husar or Sarah Hanson-Young or Ros Kelly, and that's a real shame for us.
It's got jobs for the boys. 36 of them, to be precise.
Plainly, I am disappointed that there are not at least two women in the cabinet.
The cabinet of Afghanistan now has more women in it than the cabinet of Australia.
Chris Bowen was right. I remember mentioning the women in the Afghanistan cabinet. I think there were 5 or 6 of them. Why did you make it into the cabinet? I had to be there because I'd been elected as the deputy leader of the party, and in that role you were able to choose your own portfolio, and I'd chosen foreign affairs. At the time, in interviews, you defended the arrangement. What was going on inside your brain while making those responses? Don't slip up, keep a straight face, and keep saying that we choose our ministers on merit, knowing that there were a number of very competent women who didn't have the opportunity to serve at that time because they hadn't been chosen. You are one of the few people in Australian politics who is in a position to observe the difference between being the only woman in a cabinet and being one of 2 or 3 and then one of more. How does that work?
It does make a difference. By the time Malcolm Turnbull became Prime Minister and we had maybe 5 or 6 women, there was just a sense of this is how it should be. There should be many more female voices around the table, exchanging views and ideas, different life experience, different background, different perspective. It added to the richness of the debate.
And it sounds like even having another woman in your line of sight seems to have made a difference.
So that I could eye roll at them. Yes, that did help. Seriously. It's a phenomenon that I've described as gender deafness. And it occurs not only in the federal cabinet, but I've experienced it elsewhere. And so many women have told me they've experienced exactly the same thing.
It's one of those classic frustrations that we all have as women in politics.
You do a few eye rolls and you get the raised eyebrow.
It's extraordinary that it persists today. Of course it's happened to me.
It's probably happened to you.
You're the only woman in a room and you come up with an idea or you say something.
And it's like no one hears you. You are the only woman and you put up an idea and then they look at you and go on debating
And you think, oh, okay, that was a dud. And then the next person speaks, and suddenly your idea
only has to get 2 or 3 chairs along till the bloke says it.
and then the next one actually appropriates your idea, maybe in different terms. And say, oh,
and everyone goes, oh, that's a great idea.
and then all the men around the table nod and say, what a good idea.
Hello. Did I not?
Is there an echo in this room?
It's kind of astonishing when it does. Sort of think, didn't I say that?
I just said that.
And all of a sudden everybody heard it and it's a great idea. Let's go around the room and everyone says what their opinion is. And we'll start with you. What do you think we should do? I said, well, I think we should do ABC. Male number 1. I agree with Anne. We should do ABC. Male number 2. I agree with male number 1. We should do ABC. Male number 3. I agree with males number 1 and 2. By the time we went around the room, they were all patting each other on the back for their wonderful idea that they came up with. This is the power of invisibility that we have.
This is not something that I've created. The number of women who've told me.
That happens all the time.
But as outlined, the more women they had around the table, the more they started to back each other up in terms of things like this.
I come to my staff, my constituents, my family, I'm going to make this announcement now. And he said he was getting really angry with me, and because he said, look, he just won his ministry, and he said, look, not this time, but I said it was sort of like implying that I would get a ministry come the next round, and I said, Scott, it is not about that. I'm just announcing that I'm not going to recontest the next election, and that I will, I'll support you and Josh and the new candidate, and that's what was all in my statement. And he was getting really frustrated because I just wasn't taking any of these offers, and he said, Julia, I am the Prime Minister. And I remember thinking, I think I said something along the lines of, I know who you are, Scott, but